All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have a chance to chat with you online. This is sort of the capstone event of our week of women's initiatives, recruiting in about 7 different locations. Earlier this week was in New York. Last night I hosted an event here on campus. My colleagues have been in San Francisco and Chicago. And this is sort of the wrap-up event for the week. So it's our pleasure to give you a chance to get to know some of our alums and current students who are here participating in or alums of several different versions of the MBA program that we offer here at Sloan. So today we have representatives from the Executive MBA program, the traditional 2-year MBA program, and the Sloan Fellows program. So it's great to have a chance to give them an opportunity to share their stories with you. Here at MIT Sloan, women's initiatives and diversity is very important to us. We have a number of different initiatives that take place, and we'll talk about that during the event over the next 45 minutes or so, but I thought it would be good to kind of open by sharing some statistics about women who are a part of our community here. So in the 2-year MBA program, our percentage of women has been on the rise over the past 5 years, and over the past 2 years, our percentage of women has been over 40% of the class. And then that is also expected for our incoming class that starts in a few weeks. We're hoping to be around 42–43%. In addition to that, the percentage of female faculty members here at Sloan is also on the rise. We have over 25% female faculty here at Sloan, and then across MIT, we have about 23% female faculty. So in comparison to our peer schools, that ranks us in the top 2nd or 3rd spot. So just some statistics to share. We also have a faculty member, Tom Malone, who is the director of MIT's Center for Collective Intelligence. And he has a number of pieces of research that show why women make smarter teams. Essentially, he says that through the research that he's done, the higher the percentage of women on a team, the more likely that team is to have collective intelligence and thus get things done. So, all of us already know that, but it's good to have research that backs it up. I'm joined by my colleague here, Maura Herson. She's the director of our MBA program. I don't know if you'd like to say a little introduction or...
Yes, welcome to all our participants, and hello to all of our students and alums. It's wonderful to see you and to be able to hear how your life is going, whether it's just at your summer internship or in your life after Sloan. When I say we, I talk about our Senior Associate Dean, Jake Cohen, and I talk regularly and often about how we can make MIT Sloan's environment supportive and engaging for our women students. And I work with the faculty on this. We work with our Sloan Women in Management Club on this. I think there's no better place on the planet for a woman to come get an MBA, and hopefully you'll hear some of the real stories of our students and you'll agree.
Great.
Come learn more.
So for today's sort of agenda, as I mentioned, we have several alums and a current student who are joining us, and we're going to talk about things that focus on our diverse community, kind of cross-campus collaboration. We'll touch on the innovative curriculum that we offer. We'll talk about the faculty who are here at MIT Sloan, and then we'll talk about the alumni network and career services and how Sloan has been able to help these women enhance their careers. And then throughout, you can post questions, and I'll see your questions posted, and we'll take Q&A from the audience throughout and also at the end. So at this time, I'd like our panelists to introduce themselves. Maybe Donna, if you'd like to start, could you tell us about what you were doing prior to coming to MIT Sloan, what program you participated in, and what you're doing now?
Sure, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Thrilled to be here today. So prior to coming to MIT Sloan, I was a co-founder of a company called Care.com that helps families find care across the lifespan, and I made the decision to go and pursue my MBA as we were preparing to go public. So right after we went public, the co-founders and I, we were looking around for sort of other programs that would be a great fit, and we were super excited when we found out about the program at MIT and how it would align with the work that I was currently doing at Care.com and how it was going to support my future aspirations. So life after, actually I made a transition mid-program. Part of that was because I wanted to take advantage of the tremendous opportunities that you will have while you're actually on campus at MIT. And so today I have, I would say, a baby toe still in care.com and supporting some of the initiatives ongoing there. But I'm serving as an entrepreneur and lecturer here at MIT at the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship. And I also am lecturing a course called Scaling Entrepreneurial Ventures and supporting a number of the entrepreneurs across campus. And would be happy to talk more about that later.
Thanks, Donna. All right. So next up, maybe we can have Sandy introduce herself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm a current student at Sloan, entering my second year. And before business school, I worked in management consulting at Bain & Company, and originally left to pursue my interest in sustainability and clean tech, and decided that Sloan was really the right place for me with its really great innovation community, as well as the focus on opening opportunities and connecting people across different industries. I'm part of the Leaders for Global Operations program, which is part of the 2-year MBA program, in which we are engineering students at the same time. So we're pursuing Masters in Engineering while doing the MBA as well. And I'm currently spending my 6-month internship at National Grid in the strategy team, which has been a great way to see kind of the inner workings of energy from a different standpoint. So I'm happy to be here and answer any questions that can be helpful.
Great, thank you, Sandy. As we go through the panel, I just wanted to remind you, in the top right corner of your screen, if you click on the Q&A icon, that will allow you to type questions in. Okay, so next up, maybe we can have Nora introduce herself.
Okay, hello everyone. So my name is Nora. I'm from Argentina, and prior to going to MIT, I've been working for over 10 years in the logistics industry. My case was a little bit special. Not so often I met students that were working in a family-owned business, and this is my case. So as I was sponsored by the company, I went to MIT for the Sloan Fellows program, which is a mid-career MBA. It's a 1-year MBA. And after finishing Sloan, I came back to Argentina, but during my time there, I found many other things that kept my interest, such as education, and I started working on that in the nonprofit sector. And after that, well, I also started a company here, which didn't work out, but not related at all with logistics. And now I'm still working in logistics, so I went back to the company. But during my time there, I had the time to explore things that I wasn't even aware that existed in that ecosystem. So, well, then I can share more about the path I chose while I was there.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up, Ellen. Thanks for joining us. Could you introduce yourself? Tell us what you did prior to MIT Sloan, what program you went to, and what you're doing now.
Sure. Hi, I'm Ellen Rice-Staten. And prior to Sloan, I worked in health policy and healthcare consulting, most recently working for the federal government, the Obama administration, and building out program requirements related to the Federal Health Insurance Exchange, or the marketplace as it's called now. While I was doing that, though, I worked at companies such as Deloitte and other smaller consulting firms. I'd always been interested in kind of leadership and entrepreneurship and how you increase that in underrepresented groups. And it always worked with the companies that I was at and those sorts of strategic initiatives. And so I came to Sloan because I wanted to explore entrepreneurship and think about how I could solve this problem of increasing I would say representation in certain groups and kind of the entrepreneurial ecosystem and in STEM. So Sloan kind of gave me the skills to set up my company, launch my company. I really took advantage of Sloan and MIT to study this issue, and then I left Sloan, graduated from the MBA program with a company set up called Stratovia, where we focus on building diversity and inclusion in STEM and entrepreneurship. And that's what I'm working on now as my startup. And we're working actually on a second startup to focus more on the leadership side. And I'm also still consulting in the public healthcare space.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And SK, now it's your turn.
Great. Hello, everybody. My name is SK Callanan. I'm from the Boston area originally. Before Sloan, I was doing consulting in the oil and gas and utility industry, and I decided to come to Sloan because I went to one of those Sloan on the road prospective student events, and there were so many alumni who on a random Tuesday night had come out to support the Sloan community and see, you know, who would be in the next classes of Sloan, and I just thought, wow, this is a really powerful network of people who really care about the MIT Sloan community. So that really blew me away and put Sloan on the top of my list. At school, I'm heavily involved with the student government. I'm one of the co-presidents of the MBA class of 2017. I'm in the same MBA class as Sandy, so we have one more year left. And I'm at my summer internship right now in Los Angeles, California. I'm currently sitting in my office at Disney. So I decided to kind of change industries, sticking with the consulting mindset, but switching from energy to entertainment.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so to kick things off, I'd like to ask our panelists if you could talk a little bit about what the community is like at MIT Sloan. You know, how would you describe the students that you met and worked with? Whoever would like to jump in is welcome to go first.
I can start.
Okay.
And you broke up a little bit, so I think the question was about the community and what the other students were like. So speaking for the EMBA program, I have to admit that I was completely humbled when I met my classmates. One, I discovered the thing that we all shared in common was this belief that you should do good and well as a business leader, and they believed in the mission of wanting to improve the world, regardless of their domain. And then they would share a little bit about their experience, and they had done all kinds of things that they were really humble about. I started this program, and I presented it at the World Economic Forum, and here's what are the next few things that we're going to do, or before going to medical school, I developed this medical device, and that company went public, which enabled me to go to med school, and now I'm running this hospital. And one of the things that, I'm currently doing on the side is that, 1 week a year, I take my whole team down to the islands, and we perform surgery for people who can't afford it. And part of the reason I'm here at Sloan is because I ran my scale that. And that was that community. There were definitely people there who wanted to figure out how to innovate at their, corporate jobs they were part of or wanted to pivot in their career. But the community, for me, one, was really supportive, and we're really focused also on the mission. So hats off to you guys. You guys did a great job on the vetting process, at least with my MBA class. I can't say enough wonderful things about them.
Thank you. Any other comments about the community or what the students are like here at Sloan?
Yeah, I want to jump in.
Oh. No, please, you go first.
Okay, so I can talk a little bit about how we try to enhance the community while we're in school, especially through the Senate. So in the Senate, I was involved with the Sloan Experience Committee, which is literally about how do you make the Sloan experience the best it can be. And that was something that really drove me because I had met all of my classmates during orientation, and similar to what Donna was just saying, I was so impressed by everyone I met, and I wanted to make sure that everyone had the best time that they possibly could have while they're at Sloan. So Sloan has events that we put on very regularly for kind of the all of the folks who are on campus, including the EMBAs when they're physically joining us on campus. But we have really fun events like the Fall and Spring Olympics, which is a fun way to get to know your own cohort and your own class. And we also do other fun cultural events where we'll have the Japanese Business Club put on an event, and the Korean Business Club put on an event, or the Israeli Business Club put on an event. And those are really great experiences to get to know your classmates in kind of their different settings or where their backgrounds are coming from. And I have just been blown away by all of my classmates. And I think in the age of hashtags, we always use hashtag Sloanies helping Sloanies. And I think that that's something that's really true, that all Sloanies really do want to help each other and make sure that we're all rising as a whole class. And that's one of my favorite parts about being at Sloan.
Thanks, Sandy. I'm sorry. Thanks, SK. Sandy, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what SK was saying. I think it's been a really incredible experience to join the Sloan community. And I was living in the Boston area beforehand, but found that as soon as I joined Sloan, it felt like I was in a world of people and with endless things to do and things to learn from them. And one other thing I'll highlight was that there are a lot of experiences like action learning or treks that I've been able to take advantage of and get to know people in different settings through. And one huge takeaway that I've gotten from the most recent trek that I took part of, which was in Israel, was just how ready alumni and recent students and current students alike are to just, you call them or email them and say, hey, I went to Sloan or I go to Sloan, and they automatically say, great, what can I do? When can we talk? Which has been really phenomenal. So I'm really grateful to be a part of the community.
Thanks. That is a perfect segue to the next topic I'd like to talk about, which is the curriculum and how the teaching methods are quite innovative, particularly action learning based classes. Could any of you speak to either any of the lab classes or action learning electives that you took and what the project was like that you were on, who you were working with, where it was located?
I was not, sorry.
Okay.
No, I thought no one was going to speak, so I was going to say I was not lucky enough to take one of those classes, but for from my cohort, the students that took the time off, well, not off, but to travel to the locations and really stay in the places and meet the companies, etc. It was really, really, really mind-blowing, because it's just, it's not only theory, but it's a chance to put in practice what you've been learning in the classroom. So, but if Sandy wanted to say something, please go ahead.
Sure. No, I agree with that. So I'm really interested in supply chain and operations. And so in the spring, I took a class called Operations Lab. We call it Ops Lab, and it's with a professor that's been around at MIT and is kind of forefront of the industry. And basically you work in project teams with companies that have real world operations problems that they bring and ask you to work on collaboratively with the company. I was working for a fish sticks manufacturer. So if you think of like the frozen fish boxes that you get in the grocery store, and they were having operational issues with their actual kind of cutting and flavoring and cooking of the fish, where they were having lower yields than usual. And so they had a pretty open question of, can you help us figure out what's happening, kind of analyzing the data, and then also help us make our process better. And it was, it sounds kind of strange, but it was a blast. It was located in Gloucester, so up on the coast, pretty close to Boston, so we were able to visit them and actually meet regularly with them to help them improve their manufacturing. And in the end, I think we reached a really good point where we did isolate a couple factors that were contributing to some of their issues. And I think they're going to be a collaborator with MIT and Ops Lab in the future. So, if you come, you can make fish sticks even better.
Hi. I was going to say I took a study tour class during the Sloan innovation period, our SIP period. And during the study tour, we focused on branding and behavioral science and how branding and behavioral science can help you make better decisions and come up with better business policies. And we traveled as part of the class, which was taught by Professor Renee Gosling. We traveled to Cuba, Trinidad, and Tobago after taking the half semester of the class, and we were able to talk to business leaders, policy leaders about different initiatives, even government initiatives, to drive either tourism, particularly ecotourism to the Caribbean, to solve some of the we explored some of the challenges facing Cuba as they grow economically and they start to diversify their economy a bit more. And so, you know, what I thought was really cool about this action learning class was bringing in kind of the behavioral science perspective and also bringing in the intersection between business, I would say, and policy, and how understanding behavioral science can help drive better policy and business decisions.
Great, thank you. The next question.
Oh, okay. I can wait. I was going to share two really quick action learning opportunities. Okay, so with the EMBA program, there is something called GoLab, where it's more of a capstone experience. You take pretty much everything that you've learned during your time at MIT, and you're asked to apply it to a company, and you sort of bid for the company that you want, and you form your teams. So the team that I was focused on was for a company that had developed this technology that took brackish water and turned it into something that could be used, and they were using this technology to do these massive lagoons all over the world, and they had been growing organically into sort of this billion-dollar company based on sort of the press that they were getting, and had some real challenges related to their overall strategy, how to enter the U.S. So our team, we worked with them from Miami to Mexico, and then we spent a week with them in Chile over a period of 6 months to give them actionable things that they could do to transform their business, everything from sort of this cluster analysis on how they target different parts of the world, to how they would think through their marketing strategy if they really wanted to start a movement, and why, and how they really needed to partner with governments. And then we had an opportunity after that great experience, literally the next day, after we finished his presentations, we were paired with a nonprofit based on how we felt, and then we repeated that experience, but we did it in a week of sort of a deep dive with that nonprofit on really rolling up our sleeves, getting our hands dirty, and then very quickly helping them do it. And it was such a hit that the alumni, at least from those classes, have decided that we're just going to keep doing that every year as part of those who can for vacation, that we're going to target a part of the world in an organization, and we're going to take a week before and then a week while we're there to help those organizations. So I just wanted to share. There's a lot of opportunities.
Absolutely. We currently offer about 15 different lab courses, and then in addition to that, there are the study tours and the treks that some of our panelists brought up. So many opportunities to learn both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. Our faculty are known for being innovators in their fields, and I'm wondering if anyone here has a story about a favorite class that they took or a faculty member that they were able to work with.
Well, I can certainly this I think exposes the way things are at MIT. So I told you I was working on logistics. I've been doing that for more than 10 years, and when I went to MIT, I had some time to think, which I mean, in your day-to-day life, sometimes you don't have time to reflect as you're going to have when you have one period of, in my case, it was 1 year off just to study. So there are many new ideas that arise, and I started becoming interested in education. So we have this macroeconomics professor who's from Venezuela. He's a very, very, very funny guy. His name is Roberto Rigoban, and his father was from Argentina. So I decided I was going to take the time to write a thesis. And I didn't know who I could, because all the education classes I took them at Harvard. So I wanted to have an advisor who knew about Argentina, at least had an idea. I was surprised in every class he was very updated on what was happening in Argentina. That's not a very relevant country, and compared to the other nationalities that were represented in the classroom. So he's an out of the box guy. So I said, well, I'm gonna ask him if he wants to be my advisor. And he not only accepted to be my advisor, and he's super busy, but he was he added a twist on the way I was facing the thesis. And it's not a field that you say, okay, macroeconomics, education is not related, but he showed me how they were related, and it was it's a great memory. I learned a lot, and I had the chance to be close to him and work together with him, which it's really something to treasure. So I don't know if that experience helps, but it's a way of showing you how things that you think that are not possible actually are and turn out to be great.
Great. Any other examples of classes or faculty members that you worked with?
I can chime in here. I think when you think of MIT Sloan, you think of analytics and innovation and maybe our finance. And so I was really surprised how amazing my accounting professors were. Now, accounting's not the sexiest class to be talking about, but I ended up taking 2 accounting classes last year. One was a required course in the MBA core semester in the fall, and then because of how amazing that professor was, his name's Eric So, I decided to take another accounting course in the spring, and this professor was, if not just as good, even better, Christopher No. And they made something pretty mundane like accounting be really exciting and really engaging. So, you know, when you're going to this school and you're paying a lot of money to go to school, even the most boring subjects like accounting, these professors are making really exciting, and they're really passionate about it, and they make coming to class really fun every day.
Great, thank you. All right, so the next thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is life outside of the classroom. So we have a number of different organizations that students can get involved with, from clubs to planning conferences. There's also different centers on campus throughout MIT that you can get involved with. A statistic we have shows that 45% of student organizations here at Sloan are led by women. And my question for the panel is, were any of you involved in any of the student organizations or centers across campus? And if so, could you tell us a little bit about it?
Hi. So when I was at Sloan, I became co-president of MIT's Black Graduate Student Association, and this is the student organization that goes across all of MIT that represents students of African descent. So it wasn't just Sloanies in it who were actually very active, but it was grad students across the institute. And I would say one of the incredible experiences I had was just connecting with the broader MIT community. They really are some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life, and no matter whether they were studying chemistry or engineering or urban studies, you know, their perspective into how they solve problems, into how they look at issues, was just incredible. Another thing I'll just add, which I love about MIT and MIT Sloan, is that they really value the voice and insights of students. In this role, I was sitting in meetings with our president, with our vice president, with our provost, with our chancellor, and they listened to me, and they valued, you know, I would go around and ask students, do surveys, and present that to them. And not only did they listen to kind of the insights from the students, but they took those insights and actually came up with ways to improve our community and actually are implementing them. And I just thought it was so impressive how they valued the voice of the student and really how collaborative MIT and Sloan is with working with student groups.
Great, thank you. All right. So the next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about were opportunities for career advancement and how your time here at Sloan has been able to impact your career, and then also beyond Sloan, what resources you've taken advantage of. So maybe for some of the current students, possibly could talk about some of the resources that you're using right now, either to find your internship or to find your position. And then for our alums, talk about how you were able to sort of find that ultimate job, and any resources both on campus or through the alumni network that you were able to take advantage of.
Sure, I can talk a little bit about that. I think one resource that I found incredibly useful, which was a bit unexpected, was actually a class that I took, and this goes back to some of the great professors' question, with Emilio Castilla, who has done a lot of work with organizational development, people analytics, and the class was more about how success is defined by each person, what makes a successful career, how do you make difficult decisions when there are many factors weighing in, and it was a series of case discussions as well as interactive panel speaker events with Sloan alums, which was a great forum in which we could, as a class, kind of talk about different ways to approach the internship and job search. And I actually found that to be really helpful in giving me kind of a framework for thinking about my career. So using the professors and other classmates and the alums as a resource was really helpful for me in thinking about, what I'd like to do longer term. And then kind of in the shorter term, the Career Resource Center and my peers have been a really wonderful way to just hear about what's going on, kind of what approaches I can take to meet people or learn more. So it's been, I felt very supported.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Sure, I can add to that as an alumni. Near the tail end of my time at MIT, one of the reasons that I wanted to do the EMBA program is that I was looking for sort of my next set of co-founders, having been with the same team across 2 companies, and it was about 15 years. And so I definitely found my next set of co-founders for what I wanted to do next in my class at MIT from that cohort, and we had a chance to really work together, and are currently still going through a number of things that we like to address in the future. But the best part, I believe, is that our professors that we develop relationships with have been a tremendous resource on that notion of if you reach out and ask. For example, Professor Scott Stern, who's just left for a sabbatical, has been he teaches strategy here at MIT, has been willing to sit down with me multiple times to talk about this future that we're developing, how we're thinking through it, and then also identifying and connecting me with people that he believes can really help with the story and how it's being framed. Same things, all things entrepreneurship. The managing director here at the Trust Center has also sort of raised his hand as well to help. It's been great.
Okay, great. All right, so my next question is if you could talk a little bit more maybe about the alumni network and sort of opportunities that you've had to engage in the alumni network, both as a current student and beyond.
I was thinking about the previous question, and you said which one of the strongest resources we had, and as an alum, I can tell that I think the underlying concept from what we're talking is the community, MIT community, and SK mentioned that before. As a student and even afterwards, it's amazing. I can tell you the power of the network of people you'll meet there. I'm not speaking only about not only speaking about my cohort, which I think I was lucky to have a very good group of people, and we're still, we graduated in 2013. We have a WhatsApp group, and we're talking to each other every single day. It's amazing. Anything that happens in any of our lives, it's posted there. But I think it's what I thought was very surprising is how everyone from MIT, your classmates, not only from your class, is willing to help. And there's a real commitment. I think that's the DNA of MIT. I know I get what SK mentioned about Sloanies helping Sloanies. It's core. It's like you're committed to help others. When I came back to Argentina, I started working in the MIT club from Argentina, and we had like a couple of weeks ago the Sloan on the Road events, and people keep coming after more than 10 years of graduating. And it's you can rely on people that have something in common with you. It's not only MIT. There's something, I think everyone that went through MIT has, I cannot put a finger on what it is, but there's a quality which I really appreciate and I like that makes it very strong, very strong. And I know, I mean, English is not my first language, but I know I cannot put it in words. I cannot emphasize enough of what I'm saying, and probably you'll know it when you're there, when you're in an event, when you go to on campus and you can see people and their friendliness, and it's very, very, very powerful.
Great. Anyone else?
I can jump in here. When I organized one of the career treks out to Los Angeles back in January for the Entertainment Media Sports Club, and reaching out to both MIT Sloan alumni as well as MIT undergraduate alumni, both had really strong connections. There was a COO of a studio who graduated from MIT undergrad. I just cold emailed him on LinkedIn, and he was super excited to meet with MIT folks because, you know, the MIT name spans across the entire institute, and it still has a really strong connection. And then now that I'm actually here at Disney this summer, there's a handful of MIT Sloan alum who actually work at the company, and I've got to do lunch with them, and they've introduced me to their colleagues. So it's a really great way to make connections for that next step in your career. And also just people are really excited and willing to help out. And again, Sloanies helping Sloanies is very true.
Okay, great, thank you. Anyone else, or should I move on to the next one? Okay, so my next two questions for the group are sort of pieces of advice in one word that kind of describes your MIT Sloan experience. So we have some questions that are coming up on the Q&A, and I want to make sure we save a few minutes to get to those. But if each of you could kind of go down the line and tell us a little bit about, you know, maybe one word or one piece of advice that you have for the population that's listening, prospective applicants, and then also, you know, one word that describes your MIT Sloan experience. So maybe Donna, if it's okay, we can start with you, and then we'll go down the line.
Absolutely. So I guess my one piece of advice, if you are considering MIT, to do as many events as possible, or to start reaching out to alumni that might be in your network or prospective students and engaging with them. They'd be happy to share information about their experience. I guess the one word for me that sums up my time and experience at MIT is transformative. It felt like when I came to MIT, there were some things that I naturally gravitated towards that I love doing, but I would say for the analytics, I felt like I was treading water. I could definitely sort of hold my own, but I was treading water there throughout my career, and I feel like now, on the other side of it, I feel like I'm a strong swimmer now, and that I picked up a bunch of new frameworks and tools that would stay with me. There was a strategy professor here who said you're a poet if you just focus on strategy, sort of the strategy without the numbers, and if you just focus on the numbers, you're the accountant. And but you really want to bring the two things together, and that's how it transformed for me. And I will.
Okay. So I think the next in line is Nora.
So
Are you there?
Yes. Hold on.
Should we go on to Ellen, maybe, while Nora figures that out?
Okay. I would say just a good piece of advice to me is to really kind of find your way. I think Sloan is so awesome in that you really can craft your own experience. You can focus on what you uniquely want to focus on. And for my experience, the word that comes to mind is launchpad. Sloan gave me everything I needed to launch my company, to launch the startup. And to me, that was critical, to actually leave Sloan with all the analytical tools, all the connections I needed, all the skills I needed, the relationships I needed to create a successful startup, which I was really passionate about.
Okay, great. SK?
I would say my one piece of advice, especially for prospective students looking to apply, is just be yourself, be your quirky self. I think one of the things that is so amazing about all of my classmates is that they are authentic and they are uniquely them, and they're not trying to be anybody else. They're not trying to be a typical business school student. They're just, coming to Sloan, figuring out what they want to do and not trying to put on an act in any way. And I think that's what makes everybody really humble and amazing classmates and amazing network to be a part of. And I would say my one-word summary would be probably inspiring. Inspiring to see what all my other classmates are doing, and also you do a lot of self-reflection, and it's really inspiring what you're capable of when you graduate, when you leave Sloan. So even only 50% of the way through, I'm really inspired for what my classmates are going to accomplish when they leave, and also what my career path and what my life is going to look like after Sloan. When you graduate, when you leave Sloan, so even only 50% of the way through, I'm really inspired for what my classmates are going to accomplish when they leave, and also what my career path and what my life is going to look like after Sloan. When you graduate, when you leave Sloan, so even only 50% of the way through, I'm really inspired for what my classmates are going to accomplish when they leave, and also what my career path and what my life is going to look like after Sloan.
Okay. Thanks. And then, Nora, were you able to connect?
Yeah, sorry for that.
That's okay.
So advice, I'll speak about my program, which is a little bit different from the others. I think it's mostly, I think the average age for people in the Sloan Fellows program, it's 40 or late 30s, and that's especially if there's any mother listening to me. It's a program that's thought for people with families, so I wouldn't let that stop me. If there's, if the logistics around your project, your MBA project, allow you to do it, go for it. Another thing that I remember when I was thinking of applying to an MBA, MIT can be a little bit intimidating for what SK was saying, that you think of engineers and you think of finance and all these hard skills that you would acquire once you go there. And I would say MIT, it's a very, very broad place to, I had a class called ULab with Otto Scharmer. I don't know if any of you knows what I'm talking about, but that's, it's like very soft and it's very MIT-like, which you don't know until you're there. So I wouldn't let the brand intimidate me. I would go for it. I think in my case, I was reflecting this morning because before talking to you, and I think it was the best investment I did in myself ever so far. And another, and a word, I was thinking, you already mentioned inspiration and transformation, but I would go for inspiration as well. It still inspires me to be in touch with my classmates, and which are already friends, and I call them my Bostonian family. I'm going there for Thanksgiving to celebrate with them because they're part of the family at this point.
Great. What about Ellen? Do you have anything to share?
Sure. So I would say advice, just echo SK's advice to really be yourself, be you. To me, my interview that I did at Sloan, I always tell the story, was the first interview I ever did with my hair down, because through visiting and talking to Sloanies and going to the events, I realized this was a place that really embraced who you are, no matter who you were. And in terms of my experience at Sloan, inspirational, definitely, but I would also say, to me, it was like a launch pad. It gave me all the tools, all the relationships, all the insights, everything I needed to leave out the door and launch a successful startup. The network, the friends, the support, the financial skills, everything. And so for me, my experience at Sloan was definitely like just a launch pad.
Thank you. That's great. So I know we have a bunch of questions that are coming through, and I'm going to try to get to a few of them. We have about 10 minutes left. So one of the questions is about how to connect with opportunities across campus. So I know that several of you have probably been involved with the Trust Center for Entrepreneurship, especially Donna. But if you could talk a little bit about other opportunities, or even your opportunities within the Trust Center, for how students from other degree programs at MIT are able to connect with one another, and how students here at Sloan are able to be involved in things outside of Sloan.
Can I go?
Sure, yes.
So something I always tell people that ask me where to study, and why I also encourage people to go to MIT, it's because you have the chance to go to Harvard as well as MIT because of the cross-registration program or option, I don't know the name. But I took classes in Harvard. Many of my friends and my classmates took classes in Harvard. And this is, I think it's the only school that allows you to do that. So you can have access to both, not only both schools, both group of people, both networks going to MIT. So I think that's something very, very, a great advantage. And I think it's something you have to make use of. And that's not only, my advice would be not to stay only within MIT, okay? Expand as much as you can, and that's the time to do it.
Thanks. Anyone else?
I'll jump in there. My advice would be to get involved. Most of the centers around campus have a newsletter. You're going to see flyers everywhere, and your program will probably send you sort of a list of things going on, things from hackathons that are taking place, to amazing speakers that you'll have access to panel discussions that are taking place all over campus, to clubs. If you're interested in working, say, with mechanical engineers or people who are involved in other aspects of engineering, there's something called Make Cool Schmidt events. MIT actually has maker spaces all over campus that you can go to and get involved. You can get trained on and have access to like laser cutters and 3D printers. And if you're not that person but want to go find a person like that, you can. There's also this great resource called mithub.org that was started by MIT students as a way to find each other who have similar interests. Or maybe you do want to come here because you have a startup or you want to have one and you're looking for a way to balance your team. And that's a great way that you can. So even if you're not here, and yes, I'm so biased about the Trust Center, anyone on campus is open for all schools. It's open 24/7. There's free food, there's space. You can definitely meet people over a cup of coffee. People are fairly friendly. And you can just sign up for the newsletter, which will give you sort of a digest of a lot of the stuff going on all over campus. You can definitely meet people over a cup of coffee. Did I break up?
Can you hear me okay? No, what happened?
I can hear you, Jen.
You can? Can you hear? Can we hear everybody else?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, then maybe keep going. Sorry.
Oh, did you hear what I said?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
Oh,
okay, I'm just going to hand it off.
until you just paused. Yes. Okay, so we'll keep going. I'm going to ask another question. The next question we had was if somebody could comment on the Sloan Innovation Period and some of the opportunities that happened during SIP, which is the middle week in the middle of the Sloan 2-year MBA program. In the middle of each semester, classes break and different opportunities take place. In the fall, there's different electives and short kind of seminar type of courses that students can take. And then in the spring, a lot of the SIP activities coincide with some of the different trips that happen. So could any of you speak to a SIP activity?
Sure, I can speak to SIP. So I think we touched on there's a study tour option that you can do in the spring for SIP, but I haven't done one yet. I'm planning to do one next year, but I can talk about the on-campus option. So you basically take a mini Sloan class in 2.5 full days. And I took an amazing SIP class this past spring. It was called Improvisational Leadership, and it was taught by an improv teacher, and we literally did improv exercises. We did skits, we did walk-in, walk-out sketches. She had us pretend to sing, pretend to act out different, you know, potential conversations you would have in a business setting. So it was focused on business school, but we were essentially just doing all improv exercises. And it was a really great way to see how practicing and talking about all these different conversations you might encounter in a real business environment or a real work setting. Some of them are actually really challenging, and doing that practice, doing these fake sketches is actually a really good way to enjoy yourself in practicing it, but also get you ready for when you might have a difficult conversation in the future. And it was an awesome SIP class.
All right, thanks. All right, so another question we have is about the experience of being a woman at MIT Sloan. I know that we didn't touch on this particular topic, but would anyone like to comment on how their experience as a woman at Sloan was either surprising or supportive, or, you know, in general, what it's like to be a woman here at MIT?
I can speak to that a little bit.
Okay.
So since I'm in the LGO program, I'm taking Sloan classes as well as engineering classes. And of course, engineering is known to be kind of from the data more male-dominated. I would say that one really awesome thing that I've discovered while being at MIT has just been, first of all, the excitement about diversity of different backgrounds and career paths. So when I have met my female classmates, and just in general my classmates at Sloan, and they say, oh, you know, what classes are you taking? And I say, you know, some like the core classes, and then another like manufacturing class, and they say, oh, awesome, tell me more about that. Not, because, you know, there's never, I've never felt like I've been treated differently because I am a woman taking a class that might have more guys than women. And then the other thing is that when I am in a variety of classes, I think there is such a strong just contingency of female engineers, female business people, policymakers in and around MIT that people are open to talking about women's issues, but also are just more conscious of some of the biases that people in general have. And I think being in a supportive environment and also being in an environment where people are open to talking about experiences has been really rewarding.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to add?
I can say something. It's like these women's issues, in my case, I don't remember I'm a woman. I'm not thinking all the time, oh, I'm a woman. So it's just like, I mean, it's normal life, and you'll have a lot of diversity, so you'll I'm speaking about my experience. I could connect with people from around the world, and it doesn't matter your age. I think one of the girls were saying it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter where you come from, what you've done before, your nationality, your gender. It's just, I mean, people connect in a different way, and I don't think there's so many barriers once you're there. It's like we're all the same, and I was not aware. I think it depends a lot of your background. Even in my day-to-day life, I work in a more male-oriented field, but it's like, I don't know, you just deal with it. It's part of life. I don't think it's a big issue. I would say my program, because it's for older people, it's very friendly for mothers. That's something that many women that are going to apply to Sloan Fellows have that concern. But I think everyone did perfectly fine.
All right.
This is Maura, and I just wanted to add that structurally we think a lot, as I said at the beginning, about the experience of women here at Sloan, and I've worked with several of our faculty and many of our students and our MBA program committee, and we've looked, based on some of the press we heard in the last few years about women not working up to their potential vis-a-vis their male colleagues, and we've done studies back 15 years, and we also did another study this year around class participation. We've looked at curriculum, and some of the wonderful statistics that come out of that is, first, in terms of grade point average, there is 0 difference between how women and men perform in the MIT Sloan program. We did a very advanced set of methodologies in marketing analytics to look at class participation, and we found out that there is no difference between the frequency with which women and men participate, which I was really glad to see, because a lot of the peer school information, and when we go to conferences, we talk a lot about, do women have the confidence to speak up in class, and at MIT Sloan, apparently we're creating that healthy environment. And finally, around curriculum materials, I work with the head of our faculty of the MBA program, Kate Kellogg, to make sure that we are always working to increase the number of class materials in all the courses that have women protagonists, that have protagonists of color, and talk about diversity and inclusion as part of the business case. And this isn't insignificant, because less than 10% of all cases actually have a woman protagonist. So of that 10%, not all those women protagonists are even portrayed in a very positive light. So the fact that we're at a third and working our way up in terms of course materials that include women as major positive protagonists, I want to make sure that women who are sitting in the seats see themselves reflected in the materials that they're hearing about.
Great, thank you. Well, I think this is an excellent way to wrap up. We really enjoyed all of the participation today. We can see that there's many of you out there who are watching, and we appreciate that. Thank you for all of you who posted questions. Feel free to email us with any questions that you might have. It's mbaadmissions@sloan.mit.edu. You can email that address, and we'll get your questions to the appropriate programs if they're not pertaining to the traditional 2-year MBA. And also, I'd really like to thank our panelists for joining us today, for taking the time out of their very busy schedules to share their personal stories and to talk a little bit about how Sloan has made an impact on not only their career but also their lives. We really appreciate you taking the time to join your story, to share your stories with us, and to join us today. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to meeting you at future events. So thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.